Have you ever watched someone getting more and more frustrated during a debate, knowing they're about to explode? Well, that's exactly what's happening in today's episode of Plato's Republic. While Socrates continues dismounting Polemarchus' view that justice means helping friends and harming enemies, another figure has been boiling with anger in the background. Thrasymachus, a well-known teacher of rhetoric, has had enough. He can't contain himself any longer. And when he finally burst into the conversation, let's say he brings a definition of justice that will challenge everything we've discussed so far. Get ready for one of philosophy's most dramatic confrontations, where polite discussions turns into intellectual combat. How will Socrates confront this fierce new opponent? The Republic by Plato, Book 1, Part 3. We should rather say that a friend is someone who is good as well seems good, and someone who only seems good but isn't, only seems to be a friend and isn't really. The same can be said of an enemy. So you're arguing that the good are our friends and the bad are enemies? Yes, I confirm. And instead of simply saying, as we did at first, that it's just to do good to our friends and harm to our enemies, we should add it's just to do good to our friends when they are good and harm to our enemies when they are evil? Yes, I replied, that seems to be the truth to me. But I asked, should a just person harm anyone at all? Undoubtedly, he answered, they should harm those who are both wicked and their enemies. I said, when horses are harmed, are they improved or made worse? Made worse, he said. Made worse in the good qualities of horses, not of dogs? Yes, of horses, he confirmed. I said, and dogs are made worse in the good qualities of dogs, not of horses? Of course, he agreed. And will not men who are harmed made worse in that which is the proper virtue of man? Certainly, he said, and that human virtue is justice? To be sure, he confirmed, then men who are harmed are necessarily made unjust? That's the result, he said. But can the musician, by his art, make men unmusical? Certainly not, he replied. Or the horseman, by his art, make them bad horsemen? Impossible, he said. And can the just by justice make men unjust? Or, speaking generally, can the good by virtue make them bad? Surely not, he said. Any more than that heat can produce cold, I asked. It cannot, he agreed. Or drought produce moisture? Clearly not, he said. Nor can the good harm anyone? Impossible, he confirmed. And the just is the good? I asked. Certain, he replied. Then, to harm a friend or anyone else, it's not the act of a just person, but the opposite, the unjust person. I think what you say is quite true, Socrates, he agreed. I continue. Then, if someone says that justice consists in repaying debts, and that good is a debt a just person owes to their friends, and evil is a debt owed to enemies, to say this is not wise, for it's not true. If, as we clearly shown, harming another can never be just. I agree with you, Polemarchus said. I said, then you and I are prepared to take arms against anyone who attributes, such as saying to Simonides, Bias, Pyrrhus, or any other wise person or seer? I'm quite ready to do a battle at your side, he replied. Shall I tell you who I believe the same belongs to? I asked. Who, he replied. I believe it was Periander, Perdiccas, Xerxes, Ismenias of Thebes, or some other powerful and wealthy individual, overly confident in their own authority, who first said that justice means helping your friends and hurting your enemies. That's absolutely right, he said. Yes, I replied, but if this definition of justice doesn't hold up, what other option do we have? Thrasymachus had tried several times during our conversation to take control of the argument, but the others had shut him down, wanted to hear how it would end. But when Polemarchus and I finished speaking, and there was a brief silence, he couldn't contain himself any longer. He gathered himself up and charged at us like a wild animal, as if he wanted to tear us apart. We were terrified at the sight of him. He shouted at everyone present, "What nonsense has gotten into all of you? And why, you bunch of softies, do you keep giving in to each other? I'm telling you, if you really want to understand what justice is, you shouldn't just ask questions, you should answer them too. Don't try to look smart by simply poking holes in someone else's argument. Come up with your own ideas. There are plenty of people who can ask questions but can't provide answers. I won't let you get away with saying justice is about duty, advantage, profit, gain, or self-interest. That kind of vague talk won't carry with me. I demand clear and precise answers. I was terrified by his words and couldn't look at him without shaking. In fact, I think if I hadn't managed to meet his gaze, I would have been struck speechless. But when I saw his anger rising, I forced myself to look him in the eye, which gave me the courage to respond. Thrasymachus, I said, my voice trembling, don't be harsh on us. Polemarchus and I might have made a small error in our reasoning, but I can assure you it wasn't on purpose. Look at it this way. If we were searching for gold, you wouldn't think we were giving in to each other and ruining our chances of finding it, would you? So why, when we are searching for justice, something far more valuable than any amount of gold, do you accuse us of weakly yielding to each other instead of trying our hardest to uncover the truth? No, my friend, we are more than willing and eager to do so, but the fact is, we are struggling. And if that's the case, you who claim to know everything should show us some sympathy, rather than getting angry with us. How typical of Socrates, he replied with a sarcastic laugh. There's your famous irony again. Didn't I predict this? Haven't I already told you that no matter what he's asked, he'll refuse to give a straight answer and resort to irony or any other trick to avoid responding? Thrasymachus, I responded, you are a philosopher, so you should understand this. Imagine if you ask someone to tell you which number add up to 12, but you forbade them from answering 2 times 6, 3 times 4, 6 times 2, or 4 times 3, saying that kind of nonsense won't work for me. Obviously, if that's how you frame the question, no one could give you an answer. But what if they replied? Thrasymachus interrupts. What are you getting at? I continue. If one of these answers you ruled out is actually the correct one, are you asking me to lie and give some other number that isn't right? Is that what you mean? How would you respond to that? As if the two situations were at all similar, he scoffed. Why shouldn't they be? I replied. And even if they are not, but only seem that way to the person being questioned, shouldn't they still say what they think, regardless of what you or I forbid? I suppose you're planning to give me one of those forbidden answers then, he replied. I might, I said, despite the risk, if after thinking it over, I find any of them acceptable. He said, but what if I give you a different and better answer about justice than any of those? What do you think you deserve then? What do I deserve? Well, as someone who doesn't know, I should learn from those who do. That's what I deserve, I replied. What? No payment? How delightful! I'll pay when I have the money, I replied. But Socrates, you do have money, Glaucon said, and Thrasymachus, you don't need to worry about payment. We will all chip in for Socrates. Oh, sure, Thrasymachus replied sarcastically, and then Socrates will do what he always does, refuse to answer himself, but pick apart someone else's response. Come on, my friend, I said. How can anyone answer when they admit they know nothing, especially when someone who claims to be an authority tells them not to voice even their vague ideas? Logically, the one who should speak is someone like you, who claims to know and can share that knowledge. So, would you please answer for the benefit of everyone here, myself included? Glaucon and everyone else joined me in urging Thrasymachus to speak. It was clear to anyone watching that Thrasymachus was actually eager to talk. He thought he had an excellent answer and was looking forward to showing off. But at first, he pretended to insist that I should answer. Eventually, though, he agreed to start. Behold, he said dramatically, the so-called wisdom of Socrates. He refuses to teach anything himself, but goes around learning from others, and doesn't even bother to say thank you. It's true that I learn from others, I replied, but I completely deny being ungrateful. I don't have any money, so I pay in praise, which is all I can offer. And you'll soon see how quick I am to praise anyone who I think speaks well when you give your answer. I'm expecting you to answer well after all. Listen up then, he said. I declare that justice is nothing more than what serves the interest of the stronger. Why aren't you praising me now? But of course you won't. Let me make sure I understand you first, I replied. You're saying justice is the interest of the stronger. What exactly do you mean by that, Thrasymachus? Surely, you're not suggesting that just because Polydamas, the champion fighter, is stronger than us and finds eating beef good for his physical strength, that eating beef is equally beneficial and morally right for us who are weaker. That's outrageous, Socrates, he exclaimed. You're twisting my words to make my argument look as bad as possible. Not at all, my good sir, I said. I'm simply trying to understand. I'd appreciate it if you could explain a bit more clearly. Well, he said, haven't you heard that there are different forms of government? There are tyrannies, democracies, and aristocracies. Yes, I'm aware of that, I replied. And in each state, the government is the ruling power, right? Certainly, I replied. Then these different forms of government create laws, democratic, aristocratic, or tyrannical, to serve their own interests. These laws, which they make for their own benefits, are what they present to their subjects as justice. Anyone who breaks these laws is punished as a lawbreaker and labeled unjust. That's what I mean when I say that in all states, the principle of justice is the same. It's whatever serves the government's interests. And since we must assume the government holds power, the only logical conclusion is that everywhere there's one principle of justice, the interest of the stronger. You know what fascinates me most about this part? It's not only what's being said, but how it all unfolds. We start with Socrates doing his thing, asking this simple question that leads to this mind-blowing conclusion. Justice can never involve harming others. But when you really think about it, it's like, how did we ever think otherwise? It would be like saying a doctor's job is to make people sick, right? But perhaps even more fascinating is what happens next, the dramatic entrance of Thrasymachus. I mean, haven't we all been in a conversation where someone's been sitting there getting more and more worked up until they just can't take it anymore? That's Thrasymachus. He's been watching Socrates pick apart everyone's arguments, and he's had enough. What makes this so relatable is that we see this kind of thing all the time today. You know those heated discussions on social media where someone jumps in with, well, actually, and they are absolutely convinced that they got it all figured out. That's basically what Thrasymachus is doing here. He's that person who's been itching to tell everyone why they are wrong. In the next episode, we're going to hear Thrasymachus' big idea that justice is whatever serves the interest of the stronger. I got to tell you, when you look at how laws and rules get made today, well, he might have been onto something uncomfortable there. What do you think? Have you ever noticed how some rules seem to benefit certain people more than others? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on this. And if you're enjoying our journey to the Republic, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Next time we're diving into Thrasymachus' controversial view of justice, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.